Very proud to be here. My name is Essam Albakr, founder and CEO of Ejada investment. I've been in the region all my life. My background is more entrepreneur, so it has evolved in the last 23 years. Ejada has been around for a little bit of 11 years. We started off as an investment advisory, working with family offices on portfolio optimization, investment allocation, and deal structuring. And we have just emerged in the past few years as a fund manager. So we've done various credit finance offshore funds for some of our club deals. And we're working today in Saudi Arabia, and it is our market focus. Most of the investors that we see, they're very much diversified across all continents. So it's just a matter of really deploying the investment allocation into various different investment vehicles, whether it's local Saudi fund or in Europe or in Asia, whether it's real estate, whether it's credit finance. I mean, I'm part of the trade finance fund, and they're picking great tractions within the region. And there is a big appetite for that. I mean, it's an alternative to the banks, which are traditionally in Saudi, they have been very difficult with their onerous type of terms. And most of the people want to get a breakthrough or different options to finance their goods and their purchases. So yes, most of the investors that we encounter are searching for the yield. I mean, but it won't be on the account of.
That's your numbers. What yields are we talking about?
I mean,
both on the credit and equity side.
On the equity side, I mean, you have some that are more or less guaranteeing return of 10 plus, 12%. Some that are yielding a little bit over 20%. But it's various. I mean, you can't really say that this is specifically on the credit side or on the private equity. But most of them, and you have some funds that really are doing poorly. And a lot of people have this stand towards some of the bad scenarios and examples. And they more or less paint this very broad brush across an industry just because one fund manager did not perform. Wanted to shed some light on the VC market locally in Saudi. I mean, 3 years ago it was around $50 million, and today it's a little bit over $150 million. There is expectation that $150 million. They expect within 2025 it will reach $500 million. It's interesting that Andrea mentioned Kareem. Kareem, the early investors in Kareem, majority were Saudis, whether it's STV, whether it's Al-Tayyar, and so on and so forth. So there's always been that sense of venturing with very few, very selective family office and individual investors. But the majority have always took a very conservative stand to going into technology. Myself, I'm a veteran of the technology, so my previous experience has been in IT. So I've always considered myself as an entrepreneur, and I can always relate to how difficult it is for technology startups and getting finance, and it's always been the challenges. I think what is more important today to highlight for new emerging fund managers is how they can position themselves in the market. It is very, very important. I want to echo what Maya said during her presentation. It is first impression. And it is exactly what you are presenting to the investors. If you fail, you will never have a second chance. It is very important to argue a very compelling value proposition that you bring to investors. These investors, they might have 100 fund managers knocking on their doors every month, and they see only very few. And most of them, they have a particular interest specifically, and they won't mind investing with emerging managers. As far as Saudi, and that's what I can speak on behalf, it is introduction. How you're being introduced to these family offices, to these investors, whether it's individual investors, high net worth, institutional investor, I think that's very much a long shot for emerging fund managers to access their funds. They rather go with more established, with a long track record. Dry powder, there is plenty of dry powder. It's just how you position yourself and how you're able to attract, whether it's on raising fund or getting fund sponsors or anchor investors. We've gone through the same challenge. We have two funds that we are raising today. One is an $85 million fund, F&B, and the second is a $250 million sports entertainment. Both of these funds will have an offshoot on GLA offtake deals on development of these sports venues, which basically we would have a real estate fund that we would expect within 5 years to read it. These funds, we had to get a fund sponsor. And that is the key step for you, getting that local fund sponsor that will be able to help you access your anchor investors, your co-investors, then setting the minimum ticket investment in those funds. It is very important. It's who you know, who you've teamed up with, and scalability. I mean, every investor wants to hear a good investment opportunity. You bring a very good deal. And one thing also that I would like to highlight, people do not and don't expect them to invest in a blind pool fund. That's over. I mean, this stopped a couple of years back, and I can tell you stories about it. So people, unless you have a specific deal that you've earmarked and you've done your due diligence, yes, they will be willing to look at it. Other than that, they are not going to pour their money into a fund waiting for you to find deals. That has stopped. And I don't want to correlate anything to any previous events that has happened, because every here and there you have these idiosyncratic type of stories, but some of it is positive and some of it is negative. But in all sense, this market is driven by government initiatives. So once you see the government spending, once you see the government pouring money into various sectors, you will see a lot of investors. As far as Saudi is concerned, it has gone through a very drastic transition, and all of it is positive. We see a pickup in growth noticeably late last year, early this year. And all of this is an early indication of what is to come. So for us, the challenges are there, whether you're local or foreign, but for a foreign fund manager coming in, I think it's double the challenge because of the culture and the language. But I think teaming up and finding the right partner to partner with you and help you navigate the market and understand the intricacies of how the market operates and the psychology of the local investors is very important, because most of who's going to invest with you there are Saudis, and your target market is Saudi Arabia, and they're Saudis, so you have to have knowledge of it. I can't compare Saudi to the other markets. They're a different market. This one is very deep-rooted, with very strong fundamentals. And we see a lot of opportunities in tourism, in F&B, in entertainment, in hospitality. And these are very good signs for a lot of the new fund managers to start building good investment stories.
Okay, I'm sorry, I think that you need to have a deal. You need a deal flow of pipeline space and you're not making the bond.
Yeah, but let me just, there is one also, it's good that you mentioned that. It's the off-market deals, putting together a proprietary deal flow. You don't want to come with the same deal that has been bouncing from one inbox to another outbox. People know, it's a small market. They will know everything. The key that shows that you have an added value is being able to build and put together an off-market deal. This is through contacts. It's putting this ecosystem that you can harness and present to your investors. Going with international brands and just more or less rolling them out in the first stage, then just taking them through a growth stage and trying to scale them up to hopefully to an IPO threshold. Otherwise, we'll just roll it over into another fund or look for an LBO fund for it. The market is quite big. I mean, we're not focused on the QSR nor on the fine dining. So we're focused on the casual dining, which is the least penetrated and has more potential growth there. Riyadh alone is 8.5 million population. That's a lot of people eating and a lot of people dining. I'm just going to give you one statistics. In the last 5 years, over 500,000 Saudi female has entered the Saudi market. These 500,000 females, either they live with their parents or they're married. So where is that disposable with an average of around $2,000 a month? Where is all of that money being spent? 2/4 of that income is being spent on retail and dining. So I had a visitor from the UK last week, and I took him to 2 locations. And I said, just look at what's happening here, whether in a mall or in a strip. And he was astonished. He was trying to look for a blonde and blue eyes, and all of them are Saudis, young millennials. And these people, they spend with an average bill of, say, around $50. So this is an indication of the potential of the market. Do not compromise on your fee structure. They haggle a lot, and they will haggle you, and they will try to discount it, but do not compromise. Why? Because it will show that you have confidence in the deal, and you are worth every penny they pay you.